the main thing that you are trying to do with any educational system is teach people how to connect the dots, right? What is the strategy here? How do I get from here to here? How do I make this decision? How do I think about this in a different way? But the way that we focus a lot of education is on collecting dots, right? A fact, a bit of information. What is this thing? This bit of knowledge here. Why do we focus so much time on collecting dots when we should be more focused on connecting the dots?
You're listening to the Online Course Show, where we dive deep into the strategies and tools that help online course creators build thriving businesses. I'm Jacques Hopkins, and over the past 12 years, I built a successful online course business teaching piano that's brought in over $4 million. And I'm here to share the lessons that I've learned along the way. Hey out there, and welcome back to the Online Course Show. Today's guest has been wildly successful with online courses and just online business in general, and is just such a wealth of knowledge for us. I first met Tom Geiss in 2017 when he was in the very beginning stages of his course business. And today he's got a multi-million-dollar operation and is just living his dream life. Tom was actually the very first person that I interviewed on this podcast back in episode 20. So check that out if you want to take a time machine back to 2017. It's truly amazing what Tom has built over the years, and we were long overdue for an update. So without further ado, here is the full conversation between myself and the one and only Tom Geiss. What's up, Tom Geiss? Welcome back to the Online Course Show.
Thanks, Jacques. It's great to be back. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
It's been a bit. You know, we've relatively stayed in touch over the years. I could have sworn you'd been on the podcast like many, many times. And I was looking back, I was like, no way. The only time I interviewed him was back on episode 20, and now this is going to be like 260 something. But I was looking, Tom, like you were the first person I ever interviewed on this podcast.
Really? Oh,
First
wow.
one.
Oh, and then I didn't get a call back. I feel we've been talking since then. So
we're just that desperate these days for interview. No, I'm kidding.
Of course.
No, but like we've stayed in touch. Like you did a workshop for my audience. You've obviously been extremely successful. We met up in person one time. I remember during COVID.
Absolutely. Came to Greenville.
On a little road trip, and I knew we were in your hometown. But yeah, this is it. So like, and that episode was 8 years ago. 8 years.
It was 8 years. Holy cow. Yeah, 2017. Yeah.
2017. Wow. That's, basically how long I've been doing this podcast. So, there was like 2 people listening back then. We have a few more that listen today. So I don't know if those 2 people are still around. So like, I want to go back to the beginning with you because I love your story, and I haven't heard the latest and greatest. But
sure,
let's start this way. Like, tell us about the current state of your business, and then I want to jump back to where it started.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that sounds good. So we are, our company is GD&T Basics. Our company name is Engineer Essentials, but we go by GD&T Basics. GD&T is a very nerdy thing that we do, but it stands for Geometric Dimensioning and Tolerancing. It essentially stands for all the rules and things behind creating any engineering drawing that you have, how to tolerance that, how to make sure things fit together, how to manufacture, that type of stuff. We delve deep into this topic, a very niche topic, but a very well-needed topic in the mechanical engineering world. So, but we are a bunch of smart, nerdy guys talking about nerdy things that to other extremely smart people. So we have to stay on top of our game. We work with every company from small machine shops all the way up to, we have NASA as a client, Disney, Apple. We work with a lot. We punch well above our weight in terms of the clients that we work with. So we're very proud of kind of where we've come in terms of the course offerings that we have and things like that. We typically break things down into 3 kind of course models that we sell. We do an in-person training that we have where one of the engineers that works for my company goes and visits to a client facility, and we give them a custom training based off of one of our courses that we offer. We offer public versions in which people from all over the country and all different companies kind of come to us We typically do that virtually over the web like this, where we teach our course in that way. That way they still get the instructor interaction, but it's a little bit more broad. And then finally, we do online courses, just like you as well. We do the self-paced online courses that people can sign up for, or typically businesses buy for a group of engineers, machinists, inspectors, and things like that. That get people involved that way. So yeah, and we teach them geometric dimensioning and tolerancing.
You keep saying we, and sometimes people say
It is
and it's
we.
really just themselves. But like, I know you've got a big team. Like, how many people are you up to these days?
We do. We're going to be up to 11 people right now. So we have
11, and that's all full-time people, right?
these are all full-time employees. Yep, we have full-time employees. We have basically everyone on the like sales and marketing side. We have 4 awesome ladies over there. We have our engineers. We've got 2 trainers over there, including my design engineer who helps me design the courses, as well as we just hired 2 more new trainers too. So we have 2 new trainers coming on that are going to be doing the on-site training or the public trainings. That's been really blowing up. Companies really want you to come out and do that type of training there. And then I also have my awesome assistant, Buffy, as well, and my wife, Katie, who runs HR and finance and kind of all that stuff too. So, yeah.
And these are and pretty much all of them are like local, right? You guys have an office and meet in person?
Pretty much. We've got my head trainer is here in Greenville. Buffy is here in Greenville. And then obviously me and my wife are, but then everyone else is actually around the country. We have my design engineers in South Dakota. We've got people in Baltimore, Charlotte, all over. We just hired 2 new people from Indiana and the Detroit area. So we honestly can work from anywhere. We do travel around a bit, but it is very nice being a mobile office.
My team is about 6 people. They're not all full-time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only one in the US. Why have you
US.
gone the route of everybody on your team being in the US?
There's a certain company culture that I want to instill with everyone. And that company culture requires us to get together every now and then. We actually have a big team meeting. We're actually coming out to the lake that I did the last interview with you on, something separate from the podcast. But I'm going out to, we're taking everyone out to the lake. We're meeting up. There's just something about being able to every now and then get together in person and really kind of keep that team camaraderie that has really been building up. I just have an outstanding team too, and I really miss everyone. And so it's really good to get everyone together, really start talking about things, see get together face to face, and really, dive into things, but also have some fun and get to know everyone. So
I mean, there's a lot I love about your story, but one thing I really
sure,
love about your story is you have created like a real business. It doesn't feel like one of these just like online businesses like I've got and like a lot of people on the podcast have. Not that those are not real, but like
course.
you have a brick and mortar presence. You have 11 full-time US based employees that you give benefits to and are well-paid salaries.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing. I mean, I wanted to set up the proper context for where you are now before we jump back,
Yeah, absolutely.
so that they can really see that path, and so listeners can see that path, and that there's no one right way to do this. If they want to
Mm-hmm.
do the like solopreneur thing and work from their house the rest of their lives, that's one path. But it's not the only path, and that's the path we talk
Of
about
course.
more often than not. But yours is an amazing path too.
Absolutely. And I probably wouldn't be working with a lot of these major players that we are right now if it wasn't for my employee team. When I started, it was just me. In fact, I ran the company for 4 years, just myself, until I hired my first employee back in 2015. We're actually doing our 10-year anniversary this month. Actually, would be 10 years I've been in business, but then bringing everyone on with us. And so, where we are now, I really, the best success I've had has been the team I've hired. They're absolutely outstanding. And just, for all of you out there who, might be doing solo and are looking for maybe even just dipping a toe into the employee thing, you obviously have to make good decisions. You have to hire right. And I think we've done that well. We've been very patient. We've been very strict with who we hire. and we pay well. But it has been really something that I think personally has been the catalyst to kind of getting me from where I was, maybe 5 years ago, all the way to where we are now as, a across the country brand as well as global. We actually have a partner office in Ireland and the UK, and we just started a partnership down in Puerto Rico as well. So we're kind of even expanding out beyond where we are, and we wouldn't be able to make those moves if it was just me. And so I definitely look to my team as being the main reason why we are where we are today.
Okay. So we've set some context here. You don't have to give like financial numbers, but just telling
Of
us that
course.
you've got 11 employees in the US making good salaries. Engineer, like a lot of them are engineers, competitive
Yep.
engineer salaries,
Yep.
getting actual like real company benefits, all that. I know you're
Absolutely.
doing really, really well as a company, right? So let's
Yes.
jump back. How to start, Tom? I mean, I
How
know
far back you want to go, Jacques?
2020. Yeah, but like I vaguely remember like here, let me take a quick stab at it, all right? And I didn't go back and
Go
listen to
for it.
episode 20 to prep, but I remember I think you were also like a smart passive income listener and you were
Yep.
trying to find some sort of passive income type business, doing
hmm
some SEO, long tail type research and discovered an untapped potential in the niche of GD&T. Is that kind of a fair high level what
Yeah,
happened?
definitely. I went into what I knew. I had some, as I was starting out, I did some dabble businesses, little things here and there. I'm sure likely you and the rest of your listeners did as well. I think I did a cinnamon whiskey recipe site at one time. Don't ask me how that's going. You can look at the Wayback Machine for that. Um, and then I got into some automotive engineering type of blog type things. But it was one specific article or set of articles that we wrote for the automotive engineering website, as well as me working as a engineer at. I was a former design engineer for ZF transmissions and BMW, um, and so we got into this GD&T knit, just kind of seeing that there was a lot of people searching Google for it. This is back when you could really identify what people were searching for on Google very well. And you still can to an extent, but uh, and I also saw the need though at my offices and at where I worked, and seeing that. In fact, when I originally created the website, it was I followed kind of an old adage my father taught me, which is make yourself indispensable wherever you go. And so I found GD&T. I started getting very good at being kind of the resident expert where I was at GD&T. And I got to the point where I was answering emails from other departments about drawings and things like that. And so I said, why don't I just create a website just to kind of answer these questions and answer. I saw the need there on, Google search. I saw the need on a lot of the forums. And so I created a website just about GD&T. And as we went forward, I started saying, hey, I'm getting a lot of traffic on this website. This is really interesting. And I started getting people asking me, am I releasing a book or is there any sort of things that we have to release? And I said, I don't know, maybe an online course. So I started with the online course was the first thing that we produced once we saw the need. And I did this while working full time. I did it outside of, I was working nights and weekends, just kind of building out the course slowly. It took me probably, it's a pretty complicated topic. So it took me probably a year and a half to build out the entire course. I do remember after about a year, even before the first course was launched, I, I built up an email list as all of you should be doing, built up a following. And I launched it to the email list even before the whole thing was built, just pre-sold it. And I think I sold it for $99. I think the course right now is $300, but I sold it for $99 first list, just to see, is this worth my time, even though I had a year into it building it. And I had a sign up list of about 150 people who pre-ordered it. And so that was obviously a good sign for selling this as a product. So I continued selling it, just kind of, again, nights and weekends, wasn't making crazy money, wasn't making that much. I think the first year I ran the business, I think we had $45,000 in sales, which again is nothing to sneeze at, but for the first year, outstanding, definitely strong signal, but not enough to quit my job as an engineer at that point. And so it wasn't really until I got calls where people would take my course and then they'd ask if I could come in and speak at their company or if we could get their entire company involved. I said, maybe this isn't so much a B2C product that I'm releasing just for engineers or just for individuals to pad their resume. Maybe there's a major market need on the corporate end here. And so I started, I remember I was getting phone calls while I was working and I couldn't answer it because I didn't want to dabble between the two. But it eventually reached the point where I was, responding. I would either take vacation days or things like that. And I would go out and I would train companies. And it wasn't until we started doing that, or I started doing that, that I said, I was sitting at work and I would get 4 missed calls, from potential sales, right? And again, it's not like they all turned into sales, but 4 leads, right? And I'm like, man, I think I'm actually losing money sitting here getting paid as an engineer. And I made good money as an engineer. And so it's kind of those golden handcuffs, and so I said, I talked to my family, I talked to my wife, and I was like, I think I want to save up. I saved up 6 months of expenses. I'm super conservative, and I'm not like this major risk taker here of someone who's like, I'm just going to go start a business and go all out. I saved up 6 months, tried to make sure I was secure, but then I gave my 2 weeks notice. Thankfully, my job actually wanted to keep me on, so I came in, I think 1 or 2 days a week for about 6 months, which really helped financially there. But then I started going around and training this around the country. I would go everywhere from Santa Barbara, California, all the way up to Cape Cod, Maine, teaching the course as well as selling it online. And that kind of led me right where me and you met in, I think, 2017 at the AppSumo SumoCon. I remember that. That's kind of where I was. I was already starting. I had already quit my job. And I think when I was on your podcast the first time, that's kind of the role I was taking on. I still didn't have any employees. It was still just me. My wife was still working full time. Thanks for that insurance. You still need that. But shortly after, I believe me and you met in 2017, that's where my wife and I were, we were having a kid. We had our first child, my son, Tommy. And my wife wanted to stay home full time, and I said, she wanted to go part time at work, and watch Tommy grow up, obviously, as a lot of our wives want to do, as well as work, and still we needed those insurance benefits. And her office told her no, her job told her no. So I said, well, why don't you come work for me? And so she was employee number 1 at the company, and she was doing sales and did basically kind of everything out on the side while I was training. And so I was still running the online courses, still answering questions, still doing that. But the corporate gigs were going really well because we could train them on a certain topic and then also get them enrolled in the online course and have kind of an ongoing support for them. So we had kind of a hybrid model going there, and we still do. Where we would go train in person, make sure we walk them through, review their drawings, walk them through exactly how to understand this stuff, and then be able to follow up, utilize the online course where they could jump in at any time and retake lessons or ask me questions, directly. And so, we were, me and my wife were making probably more money than we've ever made. But at the same time, I had a newborn. My wife is watching the newborn while also working full time, trying to take care of sales. I'm gone. I think I was gone 45 weeks that year. And that's not, I started this to kind of live a better life, not just make money. And I realized it wasn't sustainable. I wanted to see my kid. I didn't want to be away every week. And so that's where I got another trainer to help us out, as well as we hired a salesperson. So we hired sales first. And then we hired another trainer to help me out. I was still traveling, but now I could do it 50% of the time. And so he took on half of them. I took on half of them. And then we had another sales and marketing person, Emily, who's still with us today. So is Brandon. And that was like the four of us ran the show for a few years there. And from that, just kind of been at every time we reached like kind of that next ceiling where we're all running around like we can't do this anymore, we'd bring on someone else to like split the role. Meaning, like we brought on our first salesperson when Emily, our salesperson, marketing person, went on maternity leave. She came on just to kind of add as an assistant, and now she's our rock star salesperson that's working with, companies like Northrop Grumman and General Dynamics and Honeywell, working with these multi-billion-dollar companies, selling them training packages now. And honestly, something about having employees and watching it, especially if you do it right from the beginning, getting the people with the right attitude, watching the growth of the company, but also watching their growth and expand, and kind of as you're going and expanding, there's something really magic about that. And seeing people kind of come on, and honestly, everyone we gave it, everyone that I think we've hired for this role has never really done the role they were hired for before. So Brandon, for example, he's actually a partner in the business too, and he came on. He used to do some like cam training for machinists and things like that, but he came on and started doing this, and he loves it, and he loves talking about this stuff, and it's like it's the perfect role for him. Emily, who takes on our marketing, she came on. She was working, I believe, for a bank or an education. She worked for an educational office before she worked for us, but now she's running our marketing for the whole company. Built our website up to the point where we get, I think we get about 250,000 people a month on our website, still to this day. And so just kind of seeing these people coming in and growing and just kind of expanding with us has been one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I mean, regardless of the growth that our company has had, just the way that they're all punching way above our weight right now is just really amazing to see. So that's kind of leading us to where we are. We hired more employees when we found the need, and we hired the right people, not necessarily maybe with the right experience always, but the right attitudes. And that's really gotten us where we are today. I wouldn't be anywhere close to where we are right now if we didn't have the team that we have right here at GD&T Basics.
When you first started putting those articles online, when you were working your full-time job, did you have, was there any part of you that envisioned what the company is today?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I always knew I wanted to get into entrepreneurship in some way, shape, or form. I didn't know what it was. I always thought I'd be an inventor because I was a design engineer, right? I always thought it would be some physical product, or, like invent some crazy thing you'd see on Shark Tank or something like that. But I don't think I ever thought this would be. I thought maybe it would be a stepping stone to get there. I didn't think it would be the business, and that it would be I'd be able to grow something as niche as what we do, right? GD&T, geometric dimensioning tolerance. Probably 95% of the people out here haven't ever heard those three words together. But so I think I thought there would be probably a lower ceiling to where we've hit. But I definitely knew I was onto something. And when we had, especially with that initial team of four, me, my wife, and Emily and Brandon, when we were starting out, I definitely saw that, hey, that's when I kind of realized this is going to be something. Like, I think we can take over. I will probably say, and I've met a lot of my competitors, and honestly, my competitors and stuff are colleagues as well. They all kind of started the same way, right? They got good at what we teach, and they just went around teaching it. But I think I had a little bit more of the ambition to take and try to grow it and see how far I could take this, and see how far I could expand it. And I think it wasn't until I had that team of four that I really saw the potential for that, and that they could act as a catalyst for me growing this to that point.
Is that why at some point you created the brand Engineer Essentials, is because you thought this could be bigger than GD&T?
I think we named it Engineer Essentials just in case, so that GD&T Basics could be part of it. in case we wanted to spin off any other engineering niche out there. Thinking that, eventually we would kind of hit a ceiling, with GD&T training, right? But we have been accelerating and keep going. I haven't really found that. Obviously, we've hit little ceilings and stuff there, but there hasn't made me yet get to the point where I'm like, hey, maybe there's this thing over there that we could dive into. There have been ideas, but I think the other good thing about having a team when you have someone like me who wants to do everything, they keep me on task where I'm like, hey, let's start a software product. And everyone's like, hey, we still have all these marketing initiatives and we have these growth potential right here. Let's focus on that first and expand into that. Um, and usually they've done a great job of kind of moving us forward and growing us even within this current thing. But we still have the ability to do that. We've even considered, with the world of AI and everything like that expanding, there might be some benefits of us kind of dipping a toe in the water of helping create a software product very much adjacent to what we teach. And so that will allow us to kind of have a separate brand from the teaching into something else. But we haven't even started looking into that yet. So we have the ability to do it. That's why we named the company the way it is. But honestly, the GD&T Basics brand still has a way to go. And we are doing very well with what we have. So
You speak very highly of your team and the importance that has played on your success. What would you say is the key to finding these people? I mean, you spoke earlier to finding the right people, not necessarily based on their experience, just kind of the right attitude and all that. How do you find those right people, and then how do you get them to stick around? It sounds like your people are stuck around for quite some time.
of course, I think our first two hires, technically my first hire to my wife was
Let's forget about
part
the
of my
wife. We know that
part
by
of
now.
my network, But Brandon, when we brought him on, he was actually a mentor to me as an engineer. So when I started this company, he had been contracting for me for a while, but um, I'd put him as probably one of the best mechanical engineers, as well as he's a machinist and an inspector. He's like a unicorn. And so I got lucky enough to be able to work with him actually in the first job that I had, which, by the way, I got fired from when I first came out of college. But Brandon was there, kind of helped me get off my feet when I did get let go from that first company, and helped mentor me in getting me into CAD and engineering and overall with that. And so he was the first one I thought of when I needed someone to kind of bring on and be my role in the company. And so I found him first. That was an easy choice. Emily came through a network marketing. A network through marketing around and talking to some people. I think she was a sister-in-law to one of my wife's college sisters at her sorority, something like that. And we had done a search. We did a full search looking for a salesperson. We actually had some like hotshot salespeople there. But when we hired Emily, there was something about her kind of can-do attitude and her tenacity getting in it. She's never done sales before. She did a little marketing, I think. But that showed us that she was incredibly moldable and coachable. And that she would be the right fit, kind of taking what we built from a marketing standpoint and growing it and expanding it the way that I wanted it done. And also when we hire salespeople, as an engineer, I just naturally was salesperson phobic. Like I think you as well, probably being an engineer, you just you're just so used to the salespeople that you work with as an engineer. You're like, they're just like these like used car salesman type things and that sort of thing. And you just kind of get, you kind of have a view of sales before you become a salesperson. You have to become a salesperson when you start a company. But she had the right attitude where she didn't have that kind of that background or that baggage really that I wasn't looking for there. She came right in, kind of a fresh start, and loved our brand, really took our brand from where we had it and expanded it way beyond where we ever could be today. And so that's why, I kind of saw that in her, where her and I were very much aligned. And I think that would be the big kicker there is, making sure that they're aligned to the vision where you want to take it, as opposed to where you feel like hey, I need to hire a salesperson. I'm going to hire a salesperson, as opposed to someone who understands where you want to go and is starting to kind of have the wheels turn and is a partner with you getting there. Especially those first hires. They're so important. They set the culture of your company. They set, they kind of make or break where you're going. And of course, you can make some mistakes along the way. I hired contractors, thankfully no employees, but I hired some contractors that I had to fire just because they weren't the right direction I want to take in. But I knew Brandon, I knew Emily would kind of be the direction that we were taking the company as we were expanding things. And since then, really the people we bring on, they really have to have, I really am looking for a can-do attitude, because if they don't have a can-do attitude, the amount of experience they have, it might conflict with what you have. And if they're not going to listen to where you want to take the company, you're going to have issues with that. And everyone that we hired was very much like, I'm looking for someone to lead me and point me in the direction, and I will go wherever it was, you tell me what to do and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it better than you ever expected. I joke about Brandon. When I first talked about hiring him, I said, I want to bring you on as a trainer. I want you to be just as good of a trainer as I am doing this right now. And he looked at me, he goes, I'm not going to be as good a trainer. He goes, I'm going to be way better than you are. And so you kind of want someone that has the confidence to really say, I can do this, but also is coachable, right? And moldable, that they're looking to be under a good leader and work with that, right? And that's where that can-do attitude is. They want someone to be able to do that. And they do want to become leaders eventually, obviously, but they're looking for almost to look at this as, where can you take me? As soon as they start asking, I remember when we brought our sales lady on, Lisa, I was telling her about the company and where it was. And she mentioned to me, and we hired her as a contractor initially, but then we hired her on full time, that she'd never been given a chance at sales. And she'd always been in marketing. And I'm like, well, what if I gave you a chance at sales? She's like, yeah, you let me know. You let me know where you want to go. You let me know who to call. Like, I'll do it. And you want someone that has that kind of attitude. And it takes a while to find people like that. Just recently hired 2 engineering trainers, right, for our company. These are the people that are going to go out and represent us in front of other businesses. They're going to go to Honeywell. They're going to go to all these big companies, big engineering facilities, and they're going to be scrutinized in front of a group of engineers who probably have decades and decades of experience modeling what they do, right? And so we need a specialist. We need someone that's confident. We need someone that's intelligent. We need someone that has the background and the experience to do it. But when we hired him, we had, oh my goodness, I think this recent hire that we had 1,100 people apply, 1,100 engineers apply for the job. So that's a bit daunting to go through that many candidates as a tiny little company, 10 people or 9 people, that we were when we're going through that. So it's a lot of work hiring the right people, but it has been the most important and most value added work. You don't want to take shortcuts there. I always say, my team, it has to be a hell yes, right? It's that I think Derek Sivers said it. Hell yes or no, right? I always ask the person before I hire them, I go, I don't want this to be, yeah, this sounds interesting, I'd love to do it. If you're coming on and working for me, I want this to be a hell yes, Tom, I am coming on. I'm ready for this mission. And it's got to be a hell yes for us too. This is the person we want. This is the right fit. And sometimes we've gone through hiring processes, 3 months, a bunch of the team getting involved, where we didn't get that hell yes feeling. We started all over again, because it's that important. And so when you're early starting off, you have a smaller pool, you're just hiring those initial hires, but you really have to make sure that alignment is there, because it will set the culture of your company moving forward. And thankfully we hired the right people starting out, that now the culture is very evident, the work culture, not just the personalities and the people like that, but everyone, we're a very unique group of 11 individuals, but man, they're awesome. They're just really good people. They're people I love working with, as well as meeting them for a drink if I can, things like that. You got to really like each other too. You don't hire anyone you just don't like, even though you're like, oh, this person would be great. I just really don't like them. Don't do that. I also made and I don't think she'd be upset at me telling, one hire that didn't work out for me, unfortunately, was my sister. I hired my sister on, and that's what, I hired my wife on, friends and family type of thing. So I figured, hiring my sister on, it just became, before you hire your friends and family, be very aware that as the business owner, it 100% will cloud your judgment in dealing with that person. Like, still to this day, there's times with me and my wife, it's, we'll be going over, I need you to do that. I need you to do that, please. It's like, I have to be nice. I still have to, I have to have that very nice attitude. You're still husband and wife when you're working with your wife as as an employee, right? And so you have to understand that it's like, well, now that we're friends, we'll still be serious and still be able to have fun and keep that separate. You 100% will not be able to keep that separate. You will not. It'll never happen. It will cloud your judgment and working with them. And honestly, my sister was an awesome person. She wanted something different than I was painting a picture for with what she wanted. And it really just didn't work out. And it was very difficult for us to separate. But honestly, she's actually doing way better right now. This wasn't really what she wanted. But holy crap, for that month where we were butting heads, it was just the most devastating thing in the world. So I would advise against hiring friends and family, unless it's your wife and you know that you can work well together. Because me and my wife definitely do work very well together.
Well, look, I've got 2 sisters, man. So what I'm hearing is do not hire either one.
It's tough. You get that family dynamic going. You get the, you start teasing them and you're like, oh, wait, I can't do that anymore.
Hey, Jacques, jumping in real quick. If Tom's story has you thinking, I need a real system for my course business, then grab a spot in my free workshop. I'll show you the exact framework I use with clients to go from idea to sales without guessing. In this workshop, we cover things like how to craft a clear, outcome-driven course promise, the simple lead and email engine that warms buyers up, and a launch plan that you can actually repeat. It's free. Just head to oc.show/workshop to watch. Again, that's oc.show/workshop to save your seat. All right, back to the conversation with Tom. I appreciate you sharing all that. I'm curious now, looking at where things are today with all these employees and all the success of the business, like, what do you do? What do you do here, Tom? What does your day-to-day look like?
So my day to day, and thankfully, I just hired my executive assistant Buffy. This has been a hire, and she's awesome. By the way, I love that. Would be the first hire I'd make if I had to go back and do this again. Would be hire an assistant again. But really, a big part of my role is managing employees, right? Making sure that reviewing decisions, reviewing projects that they're going on, questioning things. Obviously, I have kind of a team of directors. Brandon manages the training department. Jason manages the design and the course development. And then Emily manages kind of all the business development, sales, marketing, all of that. I give them a lot of autonomy to do what they do, make their decisions. But I think a lot of people say this, but it's true. I work for them. I'm there to be like, Tom, I need to bounce this off you. Or, hey, we got this marketing campaign that we're thinking of doing, but how can we get the right message out there? Do you think there's anything? And I love getting involved in that stuff. Sometimes the problem with me is keeping my own mouth shut and letting them making the decisions. And so I think that's kind of where I am at the business right now, is really giving autonomy to my management team that I currently have, kind of that next level up, right? Not just giving the employees management to do their job, but now letting them make larger business decisions, strategies, right? Growth initiatives. What are we doing the next 2 quarters with these employees, right? What are we going to focus on? That's kind of the new frontier that I'm working on right now. And it's very hard to separate yourself from that because always being the decision maker. So that's something that we're currently working on right now, really making sure that we have kind of a good checks and balances system where we can get status updates on what people are doing regularly and what decisions they're making and review them so that in case I'm like, maybe this is wasting our time or this isn't going to the focus where we want to be. How about we redirect over here, while also allowing them the autonomy to not make every decision, right? I can't make every decision in the company anymore. So that's kind of a big focus that we've been making lately is, how do we balance that out while still allowing me to be involved and help them when they do need help? So that's a big focus, making sure that my team has the right resources they're doing. Obviously, we've been doing a lot of hiring lately. So that is a major, that's literally been my life. I go to bed thinking about candidates and I wake up thinking about, what we're doing that day, what interviews and all that stuff. So that takes up a lot of time. So that's been very short term, but also kind of strategic initiatives and, really where can we go next with what we're having? Where can we move towards in terms of how we can, and really outlining a clear, instead of saying we're going to do these things, really outlining a vision and making sure that it's clear enough to the rest of the team that they can fill in the missing pieces to kind of get there. And that takes a lot of time. It really does. But it's so worth it. And that's where, I've always said, my job is to make myself replaceable. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I still want to kind of have some direction. I still want to do things with that. And, but I have such an awesome team that it's gotten to the point where there have been times where I've been having meetings and I've been saying, hey, let's do this or let's do this. And they're like, well, we're already doing these things. We're already looking at this. Do you want us to stop that and move? And I'm like, man, I'm getting in their way in a little bit. I need to kind of take a little bit of a step back and not, and let them do what they're really good at. And that's hard. It's really hard when you own the company, right? It's my baby. I started it 10 years ago. It worked very hard, 100-hour weeks starting this thing up. But you have to know what's best for the company. And sometimes that is figuring out systems and ways that allow you to step aside and let the people who do it honestly better than me in some ways now, do it better than me. I mean, everyone that I've hired, I've done their job at one point, right? And everyone I've hired does their current job way better than I've ever done that job. And so, that's something that's very humbling and something that I got to catch myself a bunch of times because I think, oh, I'm Tom, I'm the founder of the company. I can do any of this stuff. And I have to really realize that and step back, but also create systems that allow me to make sure that I can be in support of them, that I can make sure I'm involved with major decisions just to ask the right questions, not necessarily decide those things, but just say, hey, have you considered this? Or what is your thought on this? Or will this conflict with this other thing that you're thinking of doing, right? Helping prioritize and all of that. But, I'm going from, being Luke Skywalker to being Obi-Wan now. I'm not fighting the fight anymore. And I think that's kind of a good transition that at this stage is kind of where I'm at, is how can I guide this team? How can I still be a leader, but allow them to do things better?
Tom, let's shift gears a little bit. You mentioned that very first course took you 18 months to create. That may be a record, man. That's a long time, but I know you're dealing with an extremely technical niche. I can only imagine how not only technical, but how much content you had to put in there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still sell that exact course or has it been updated?
Thankfully, it has been updated. It's honestly, they have that analogy, the ship of Theseus, I think it's called, where if you replace everything, if you take a ship, right, and you swap out every part eventually over time, is it the same ship if there are no original parts to it? That's kind of how it's been replaced, where every single month or every single thing, something's been swapped out, where I don't think I can find anything original text, video, stuff like that I originally put into it. But everything that's been replaced is just a better version of how I originally built it, essentially. So we still do sell that same course, but there's not a single thing that is probably the same. Thankfully, our director, technical director, Jason, who's also a design engineer, he does a great job of updating all of our stuff. We've added SolidWorks animations and graphics for adding real CAD images, real drawings, things like that, where I hired, I think you remember me telling you this, I hired this like Italian graphic designer when I first started the company just to make things look nice. They weren't engineering like accurate, but they looked pretty. And so now everything looks pretty and is 100% engineering accurate. Like all the parts and examples that we use in the course. I actually have a few behind me here, but you can actually manufacture them. There are real manufacturing parts that had tolerance analysis and calculations, and real engineering went into the stuff now, as opposed to just using light examples and things like that. So, but yeah, 18 months. And again, I did sell it after 1 year. It wasn't 100% complete. I kind of pre-sold it. And I probably started selling it halfway into developing the course, but it's a very difficult subject. And I was kind of, as much as I was an expert in my own little area of it, once I started studying it, I realized how little I actually knew about all of the topic. So there was a lot of things I had to relearn or learn more while I was developing that. When I got into it, I was a user of the stuff, but never a teacher of it, never an expert of it. I had to get actually a certification by the ASME. We have this certification for GD&T, senior level certification. That's like a 6-hour test you have to go and sit in. And I think it's got like a 20% pass rate. So I had to pass that test. I had to get good, and so that takes a lot of time. I think with other topics that wouldn't be so scrutinized, I kind of equate what I did to like if a doctor was teaching, medical things and stuff like that. You can't have things just be kind of right. They have to be, 100% right. You can't have people make those mistakes and stuff like that. It destroy your reputation. So I want to make sure things were right and accurate as an engineer. So I think that was mostly with that being a highly technical course. But I would advise anyone who is creating a course, market it the second you start building it. You should be starting to market it while you're building. And that's kind of what I did, right? I had the website already built before I had it. It was just really taking what was on the website, condensing it, making sure that I could and add to it. Make sure I added some real world knowledge, put it in a much better course, and then walk people through that. And so I was very conservative. I didn't really take many risks with it. I wanted to make sure it was ready before it was ready. But you can still do that while building it.
That's somewhere I was going to go next. I'm browsing on your website. I mean, your website
Sure.
is phenomenal, and I think I just lost where I wanted to go.
Thank you. Draws people in.
No, it really does. Like I'm browsing around your team page. You talked about them, but then your courses. Oh, you know what it was? It was tools, right? So like I believe
sure.
you used to be on Thinkific. Are you still on Thinkific?
We actually are still on Thinkific for
Really?
the direct to consumer product that we have. Meaning the ones that like if I'm an engineer and I want to come and better myself and get, this certificate and add it to my resume, right? If you're purchasing directly from our site, we have a LMS that you can still go to, Thinkific. We have like the Mac Daddy package now. Don't get me wrong. Like now we have I think we're on Enterprise or something like that. But we since found that Thinkific is great for selling courses if the product is being sold direct to the consumer, right? Or the person buying it is the one taking the course. And that's why we didn't mess with it. We still haven't messed with it yet because it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But then we actually have a second LMS that is geared towards enterprise sales.
Is it Academy of Mind?
It is. Yes, it is Academy of Mind. Yes.
Okay, I really wanted to ask you about that because I don't know many people using it, and I thought you were the one that told me about it. I don't know if it was when you were considering using it or once you had moved over to it, but I'd love to hear more about that.
Of course, and shout out to the Academy of Mind team. They've been very helpful with us. There's two things I really liked about Academy of Mind. One is it very much is aligned to someone that's in the B2B space like me, right? The majority of our sales come from a company writing us a PO, enrolling 25 students at a time, making sure they have an admin overseeing their progress, getting reports, right? They can enroll people, they can swap people out, they can make sure that they have licenses that they, you know, oh, we still have 5 licenses left on our package. And the way our licenses work is they don't actually have to, the timer for how long they have to use the license doesn't start until they enroll someone. And so they can bank licenses. That allows us to sell more at a given time and for a better discount for the client. It works out for everybody. That was a major reason we went with that is there weren't many, there's kind of 2 types of LMS, right? There's the Thinkific style where you sell direct to the consumer. And then there's the LMS that's designed to be like the intranet or the inter LMS for a huge company, right? Like, how do I get my employees to go take training? And there really wasn't anything kind of in between where it's like, well, I'm selling employee training to a company that needs to monitor it and the reports have to go to HR and stuff like that. But we're just giving them the training. We're not selling it, that sort of stuff. So Academy of Mind kind of fit that niche.
For a listener that maybe not know the
Sure,
acronym,
of course.
LMS, Learning Management System. Keep going.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, the learning management system that they have kind of did that thing where a third party could sell to enterprise. It wasn't our employees taking the courses, or it wasn't the people buying it taking the course. It was we could license this out to people and then they could monitor it as if it was their own internal learning management system. We still do sell some ones where we actually take our course and put it on their internal learning management system. But Academy of Mind is actually working on kind of a workaround with that. I don't know when they're going to be developing that, but allowing us to still host it on our system, but then just kind of send it out to this external system with them. And so that's something we're tracking to do. So that's the main reason is it just fit our business model. There's when you have a business model that's kind of unique as ours, it's challenging. I'm sure you have some other users though that are probably selling courses to companies, right? You want to sell
It's
bulk courses.
much more rare, but it does. And you know this because like sometimes I'll ping you, I'll send you an email and be like, hey, Tom, you're my B2B guy. Like,
yes,
my client has this question. Can you help me out?
Of course. So that's a unique thing for selling online courses, right? So with that, the other thing is Academy of Mind's very good about they're in this nice happy medium. They're not cheap. I won't say they're cheap for LMS.
Minimum $1,000 a month, right?
Oh yeah, and we're well above that now.
Okay.
But what you get for that is you do get a team, and they will charge you for this, but they will make customizations for you, which is nice. And you're paying for it, but it's like having a contract learning management system developer that you can go to when you want customization, unique things that don't fit within their normal system. For example, we wanted custom reports that these companies wanted, right? That kind of listed them out in a certain way. Well, if you go to any learning management system that you're paying a monthly rate for, chances are they're like, well, this is what you get. And we have to literally change all the other users that are on this learning management system to adjust to that. One of the main reasons we went with Academy of Mind was because they were very flexible with that. Again, it's not cheap to do that, but we have the ability to alter things when it comes up. We don't have to hire a developer. I talk with a lot of other B2B course management people who've sold the courses like this, and they had to have like 3 developers on site working on their LMS that they developed. So short of me creating my own learning management system that I'd probably pay $100,000 minimum a year to maintain, this is the next best thing from that.
Yeah.
And obviously far cheaper than doing it that way, far less expensive. So they kind of fit that medium niche as well.
Cool.
For where you need
so I'm working on, like, it's probably going to be a YouTube video I'm working on where
Mm-hmm.
I'm ranking online course platforms in a
Mm.
tier list. Have you seen these like YouTube videos where
Yeah,
people
of
take
course.
a
Yeah. The SA,
S
BC.
tier, A
Yeah, yeah,
tier,
yeah.
yeah, and so
Mhm.
on. And so I've had this idea for a while where let's
Of
rank
course.
the online course platforms, right? And
Hmm.
look, when you and I got started, there were far fewer out there that existed
Oh,
than do
yeah.
today. I
Uh-huh.
mean, did Thinkific exist in 2015? Or did you start there?
I think it did. I did. They actually have stuck around. I looked at Teachable. I think is Teachable still a thing too, or
It
they
is.
were
It is.
Fedora back then, or something else. But yeah, it was
That was
those
Kajabi.
two. Oh, Kajabi. Oh, yeah. Now it's
No,
Kajabi.
no,
That's
you're
right.
right.
But yeah,
Thank you.
they.
You might be right.
So yeah, it was a very different landscape. But I would say, AOM is not intending to really even compete with Thinkific. Like
Right.
they're
Would
two
not
different
go there.
animals
Right.
in that. And they're for someone like me. And again, maybe they do. They probably have some ways of maybe more of a lower tier that we have with that. But again, in terms of price, even, you're looking at two different
It's
models,
minimum of $9.99 a month. I looked into it. So, like, there's what I'm getting at is there are hundreds, if not thousands, of LMSs that
Hmm.
exist, but I narrowed it down to 20, which is still a lot that I'm going to include in the video and rank and put them in the different tiers. And I did
Cool.
decide to include Academy of Mine in the 20 because it's
Oh,
the only
great.
one that's specifically tailored for B2B. And that's
Yeah.
pretty much all I'll say about it because most of my audience is more interested in B2C. But I'm gonna rank it pretty low because it's a
Uh-huh.
B2C type audience. But I'll mention that, like, hey, if this were a B2B ranking, it'd probably be at the top, but it's not. So I'm going to bring it down here toward the bottom.
Of course.
And maybe I'll play
Um,
a little clip of you speaking so highly of it.
yeah, and I mean, again, if you're very, we are not, definitely a lot of the users that you have are at a very different, maybe business stage than me, but also a very different market than me, right? But for my market and where we have, I think it would be a good fit. It'd be a good fit if you're selling, I would say if you're selling like types of professional training where you are thinking of, hey, I could probably sell this to a company versus selling this to a user. That's when you have to start looking into these. And there's a brand new tier. I mean, this is honestly, Academy of Mine is one of the more moderately or better priced ones than even some of the other ones that they're up there. I mean, we were looking at six figures at some points at some of the other options that we had, which again weren't ideal for us. And so, but yes, I would recommend it if you're very much tightly in the lane that I'm in right now. So
I know that you have incredible systems set up. You obviously have an incredible team, great
sure.
product. The whole thing is churning along nicely.
Hmm.
But if the marketing side, the traffic side, the audience side slowed down, went away,
Hmm.
it renders some of those other pieces of the business a little, I don't know about, useless, but it changes the whole dynamics of the business. I'm curious, you mentioned 250,000 something users a month, something like that. I think a
Hmm.
lot of that's coming from organic search.
Oh, almost like 85%. Yeah.
Right. What would you do if like all of a sudden 90% of that went away? What actions would you take?
It's funny you ask about that right now. We're actually doing part of the reason we're doing our team retreat next week is to talk about that exact question, right? It hasn't happened yet, and it's happening very
You need me to
slowly.
be like a guest speaker at your retreat or
Of course. But we do have some ideas, right? My question to them is, the past 10 years I've built this. If Google didn't exist, I wouldn't have nearly as much of growth that we've had. And all of us are seeing that slowly erode away, right? There are AI overviews now for everything. I'm appearing in a lot of them still, which is good. I think the same things that worked for SEO are working for AI overviews. I will say that I am finding that as someone who relies a business on it, I am still seeing that. But the things that we're releasing now, the things that we relied on, what is GD&T flatness, right? A page that gets thousands of people a month on our website, right? Or what is GD&T true position, or all these symbols that we have and all these concepts. Um, AI can just answer them in 5 minutes of what that is. And yeah, I have images, I have videos, I have all the things like that. That is one of our weapon is how can we be more dynamic and answer a thing better than the Google AI overview. That would be my number one thing that we're working on right now. Is there a way that someone can understand this better? And thankfully for my unique thing, that what I teach, it's a very visual thing. I can't just describe to you how geometric dimensioning and tolerancing works. I have to show you something. I have to show you a model. I have to show you a CAD model. I have to walk you through symbols and concepts and drawings and things like that. So that is one tiny little moat that we have to be able to do that and to be able to reproduce that. But I am challenging my team. If Google disappeared overnight, right? How would we get the leads that we get? And being in B2B and kind of B2C, obviously we get the sales. We monitor sales, direct sales coming in. But the majority of the thing that we track from our marketing standpoint are what are called marketing qualified leads, or MQLs, if you get into the sales world. They're MQLs. They're people raising their hand and saying, I'm interested, my company is interested in GD&T training. And so my objective for my team and what we're going to be talking about is, if Google went away, how would you get people still reaching out to you, or even be aware that someone's raising their hand and saying, I need GD&T training? Where would you look for that, right? Because it's not just what would you do, it's where would you look? What audiences would you be in? So we're going to be exploring a lot of that. I definitely think we're going to be probably tripling down on LinkedIn very soon. I definitely think we're going to be leveraging LinkedIn almost to a way of an extension of our website, just really making it so that anything we do on our website, we're also going to be independently doing there. Your social media way of choice, if Instagram's your jam, do it. TikTok, Facebook, all of that. But LinkedIn, obviously, for our business is definitely a way that we could still spread our messaging organically. So we're going to be leaning into that. YouTube still definitely, right? I think video is a good, safe medium, relatively AI proof, right? When it comes to really doing things. But, the way I thought about this was, it's back to kind of, Seth Godin has an amazing quote about learning things, right? And he talks about the educational system where, the main thing that you are trying to do with any educational system is teach people how to connect the dots, right? What is the strategy here? How do I get from here to here? How do I make this decision? How do I think about this in a different way? But the way that we focus a lot of education is on collecting dots, right? A fact, a bit of information. What is this thing? This bit of knowledge here, right? That he talks about. I'm probably butchering this quote or whatever he says, but why do we focus so much time on collecting dots when we should be more focused on connecting the dots? And that is what my team is going to be focused on. And we've always been focused on that. And I think that's what will make us still very robust in the way that we market our product. Is probably 95% of the stuff that we sell on our course webs that we sell, right? You could look up for free. We are the number one resource online for this topic. You could look up for free and look up that bit of data. Oh, flatness should be placed this way, and this is how it looks, and that sort of thing, right? Facts, things like that. But where we specialize in is, even, yes, you do need to know those facts and those rules, right? But that's all written in. We have a standard that it's written in. It's called the ASME Y 14.5 standard, that all the rules of GD&T are written in. You just buy that standard and look up everything, right? Why don't you do that? But that's because I think course creators in the future are going to need to be good at helping people connect the dots, helping them walk through what that is, right? I could look up an E flat minor chord online, right, Jacques? But you're showing me how to utilize it in finger position and how to relate it to a song that I want to learn, right? You're taking me somewhere. You're helping me connect these little things and putting it in a way that shortens that for me too, right? People are saving time taking your course versus trying to look up chords and doing things like that and trying to do it. And they're not being taken on the journey of what the best way to do that is. And that's where all of your listeners out there, if they're taking people on how to connect those dots, Be a thought leader in your space and share that. And I think if as long as you continue on the marketing front to be that thought leader, connecting those dots, it doesn't matter what the AI overview is if you have the way and the best process to kind of get people to where they want to be.
That was beautiful, Tom. That was such a golden nugget here toward the end. I often will say, like, it's about the transformation, not just the information. And I think that aligns well with what you're talking about. I love the way you put it. I haven't heard that before with instead of collecting the dots, we need to help connect the dots. And that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Man, I
Absolutely.
think this is one of those that could go for 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, I
And I
know. I could
don't
talk to you forever.
I don't say that much. And yeah, and you're doing the heavy lifting. I'm just tossing them up and you're hitting them out of the park.
Of course.
But I got a couple more for you here.
Yeah, please.
First one, I see that beautiful bookshelf behind you. I know you're a reader. You're obviously like to learn from gurus and whatnot. Is there something, past year or two that was pretty impactful that you'd recommend?
Yes. One on systems and one on kind of marketing and sales, I would say.
Beautiful. Let's hear it.
The systems one is one we just read. Emily just brought it to my attention, but I have my whole team now reading it. It's called Come Up for Air. It's if you're reaching kind of the level where you are starting to look at employees, it really kind of breaks your business down into 3 fundamental systems of when you're working with employees, right? It's exclusively for companies with employees, but I think it could benefit even if you are working with contractors and other things like that. Breaks it down into like, what's your communication system? What's your project or doing system? How do you keep track of what you're doing? And then how do you keep track of your knowledge and how you're growing as a company? Where we are as a business, that's been really invaluable building the systems, right? For example, for communication, we're trying to roll out a process where we're trying to use email just for external communication and using Teams or, chat or Slack or whatever for internal communication. The goal of the book, just to give you kind of a quick synopsis, is to minimize the time you spend looking for this thing that you're trying to find, right? Building your systems around accessibility as opposed to, just shoving everything everywhere you can. And I think he does a very good job explaining it. I don't have the name of the author. I can't read it from this far. Nick something, Come Up for Air. I have a machine part there blocking it, but you could put that in the show notes or something. I'll get you that after. That's a very good book about systems, documenting, making sure you have a knowledge base, but making sure that when you're documenting your systems, that it's light and easy to document and easy to retrieve, things like that. So great book about running a business.
So it's called Come
go
Up
ahead.
for Air. Subtitle is How Teams Can Leverage Systems and Tools to Stop Drowning in Work by Nick Sonnenberg.
That's it, Nick Sonnenberg. So that's been a very good recent one that we've been doing. Again, we're not a large team by any way, shape, or form, but once you hit a certain threshold, we're definitely different than 4 employees. Once you kind of grow even into that like 4 employees, you're all thinking about different things. Communication becomes this like critical thing that you spend most of your time articulating what you mean versus actually doing the work, right? And so this just is a very good way of doing better at articulating what needs to get done, what is done, and things like that. So I'd highly recommend that if you do have a business. The other one, though, for marketing and sales that has been an awesome, and it's a sleeper one because I haven't really heard much of this, but I believe the author is Marcus Sheridan, I think is his name, but it's called They Ask You Answer. And it is literally, it's funny because I already kind of had this philosophy in the way that my website works, but it's literally your marketing and sales should be built around the questions that your customers are asking. And you as a business owner from a sales and marketing standpoint need to know what those questions are, including how much does this cost? Who are my competitors? Who else should I be looking at? He stares in the face of some of these very difficult questions and shows you how to do that. I think he used to run like a pool company or something like that. And he said one of the best pages of traffic that he developed in this is everyone's asking, well, who are the other pool companies out there? He created a page on his website sharing all the different pool companies and how he differentiates himself from the rest, but still giving the contact information. And he goes, I get calls from my competitors every now and then. about, hey, thanks for this lead sending over to me, and all this stuff. Why are you doing this? And he goes, because I am now the place that people come when they're looking for who should I come to for a pool place. And I am the first in line to answer that question. And so, with AI and kind of things going, obviously that's something that may change and shift and that sort of thing. You have to make sure that you're on top of things there. But it's really about making sure that you do a very good job in your marketing process, especially answering those questions early on. Because, me and you have all been there, right? We've gone to a web page and you're like, well, how much does this cost? And you're not getting the answer. And you're just like, oh, I just need to know how much this costs. I'm going somewhere else that's going to tell me, right? And so it's really being there as that advisor to the person buying from you. And that's really what we took to heart, is how can we be the advisor, even if they don't go with us? How can we be the number one name in delivering the result that the customer is looking for? And that has grown our business substantially. Even if people don't go with us, and we hear this all the time, like, I took your competitor's course, but I still come to you and I still recommend you as the course. And guess what? We're getting referred by people who aren't even customers of ours doing that. So that's kind of the kicker with those types of things. Very good book. He actually has a new version of it out, I think, called Endless Customers or something. I haven't read it yet, so I can't recommend that one, but They Ask You Answer is really good.
Thanks for that. All right, last question for you, Tom.
You got it.
And this is the best question. We talked about some good stuff, but this is the most important question here, okay? From the time of recording this, about 2 weeks away, August 30th, 7:30 p.m., LSU Tigers, Clemson Tigers, kicking off the football season.
Tigers and Tigers, Death Valley and Death Valley.
That's right. Who you got?
Oh, I got Clemson. I got my boys at Clemson. Come on. I don't know who I'm guilty of this. Have they released the AP rankings yet? I haven't looked at this.
Yeah, like yesterday.
Okay. All right. Because I remember the last time I looked, they haven't released it out. I've been very busy. I haven't looked. What's LSU ranked and what's Clemson ranked?
Clemson is.
I know they're both in the top 10, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. Clemson number 4, LSU number 9. It's at Clemson. Clemson's favored by 3.5 points. They got a great team this year. I know you're very biased. I'm very biased. Just had to get your thoughts on the game.
I think Clemson's going to pull this out. I'm a big fan of Cade Klubnik. I think he is an absolutely outstanding quarterback and really getting into his prime now. And Dabo is going to be fired up for that one. And so I am very much looking forward to that game, though. The whole season is going to be outstanding. One of the unique things about the lake that we have, we're actually on the lake that Clemson's on. So we like taking the boat up there to the stadium. And even if we can't go to the game, we can watch the watch the game right from an iPad as we're listening to the crowd. So I'll probably be out. I might not get a ticket for that one, but I'll probably be out in the water listening to that one.
Hey, I think that's the first question I've asked that you've gotten wrong. So, I mean.
All right. Darn. Well, we'll have to see. Maybe we'll have to do a friendly wager or something on that.
Maybe so. Tom, it's been a pleasure, man. I can't thank you enough. I know you're a busy guy. Got important things going on. For you to rejoin me after all these years on the podcast. Can't thank you
Absolutely.
enough.
Well, hopefully I'll be invited back before 7 years from now. Let's see. or 8 years. So, all right. Thanks, take care, Jacques. Thanks.
All right, you're back with just me. I don't know about you, but chatting with Tom had me so fired up. He's just done so much the right way and has obviously reaped the rewards and success from all of that. From the very beginning to just putting out valuable content on his blog and pre-selling the course before he made it, to the way he's grown and hired and made strategic decisions. Such a pleasure having him back on the podcast after all this time. Remember, if you want to hear his previous appearance, then scroll all the way back to episode 20. That was 8 years ago now. For the links and show notes from today's episode, head over to oc.show/266. And for my free training that I mentioned earlier, that's at oc.show/workshop. It's my exact blueprint for starting and running a successful online course business, brought to you in just about 35 minutes. I know you're busy out there, so There's no fluff. We get right to it. That's oc.show/workshop. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to take action on what you've heard here today. I'm rooting for you.